Welcome to the Essential 99 Punctuation Rules for Court Reporters, video number 4, Essential Grammar Part 3. I'm Ken Wick. Let's get started. This video will cover sections G8 to G11 in the ebook, which are prepositional phrases, verbal phrases, what is an essential element, and what is a non-essential element. Prepositional phrases. Well, just to recap a little bit, a clause, remember, is a group of related words that contain a subject and a verb. And a phrase is a group of related words that which does not contain a subject, verb, or both. So we're talking phrases, so we're going to be talking about groups of words that contain a subject, verb, or that lack a subject, verb, or both. So a prepositional phrase is a phrase that begins with a preposition. It can function as an adjective or an adverb, so it will modify a noun or could modify a verb, another adverb, or an adjective. Common prepositions are all these, and I've put of in red because it is very common. So about, above, after, around, before, below, between, by, during, and you can read the rest. You could say, well, I see some of these on the same list as subordinating conjunctions, and you're right. It's up to the context to say, is that a subordinating, is that preceding a clause, or is it preceding a phrase? So I think I listed on another video that like a common prepositional phrase is on the table. Oh, here's a couple examples. Sorry. The book on the table is worth $100. So I've actually listed is the verb, book is the subject. And here you actually have on the table is a prepositional phrase. He ran around the corner. Remember, going back to your to the grammar, ran is the action, he is the subject, and around the corner is a prepositional phrase. Around is a preposition. So a verbal phrase. A verbal phrase is a phrase that begins with a ing or ed or to infinitive verbal word form, meaning the word that starts the phrase is a verb that ends in ing, ed, or is a infinitive starting with to. So shopping for clothes is relaxing after a long day. Shopping for clothes is a verbal phrase. It actually starts with a verb ending in ing. Is actually the verb. Relaxing after a long day, and just to point out that this is actually a prepositional phrase starting with the preposition after. The next example, determined to pass the skills test, the student planned for many hours of practice. So here we actually have the just to identify other things in the sentence, plan is the verb, the student is the subject. And we also have a prepositional phrase of practice, but what we're talking about verbal phrases is here's a phrase that begins with a verb that ends in ed. So determined to pass the skills test is the verbal phrase. The last one, Anthony designs public parks to ensure efficient use of space. This to ensure efficient use of space is a verbal phrase starting with an infinitive, to and then the infinitive, to ensure. So to ensure efficient use of space, and then just for sake of completeness, designs is the verb and Anthony is the subject. But here are some good examples, one of each, of phrases that begin with these verbs that end in ing, ed, or start with an infinitive. So it may be confusing. I say the biggest question could be, am I dealing with a verb of the subject, is, plan, designs, or am I dealing with a verbal phrase? You might be confused, especially maybe to ensure. You may think that, well, maybe this is the verb of the sentence. Well, here's the way to determine it. To test for verbal phrase, what you want to do is change the tense of the sentence. And what I mean by that is you change it from present tense to past tense or past tense to present tense. If you do not need to change the tense of the verb, then you actually have a verbal phrase. So you could say shopping for clothes is relaxing after a long day. If you say, oh, that's in the present tense. You say, I want to change it to past tense. You say shopping for clothes was relaxing after a long day. Notice you didn't have to change the verb, this ing verb, or shopping, just to not change tense. Therefore, you know it's a verbal phrase. I just have it. So since there's no change, it's a verbal phrase. Now, essential elements. What is an essential element? Sometimes these are called restrictive elements in some books. An essential element or restrictive element is a word, phrase, or clause that is essential to the meaning of the sentence. It defines or restricts the meaning of the word it modifies. So that's the key thing, is that whatever this element is, it is defining or restricting the meaning. And the fundamental punctuation rule is essential elements are never separated with punctuation. So you'll never, if it's an essential element, you won't be putting in commas, dashes, etc. So here's an example. I know there's a lot in here, but the essential element we're looking for is who arrived from Idaho. Because just to point out some things, this is the verb. My cousin is the subject. Through the weekend is a prepositional phrase. But who arrived from Idaho? My cousin who arrived from Idaho. Now, is this element essential to the meaning of the thing it's modifying? It's actually modifying my cousin. My cousin who arrived from Idaho. And we're going to answer yes because you could have multiple cousins. We don't know which cousin you're talking about. Who arrived from Idaho defines which cousin. So therefore, we're going to call it essential. And therefore, it's not separated with punctuation. How about the next example? I got the flu before the car accident. The question is before the car accident an essential element? So just got is the verb, I is the subject, but here before the car accident is actually modifying flu. So is this necessary for the meaning of the sentence? And we're going to say yes because it defines or limits which flu. We don't know which flu you're actually talking about. I got the flu. If you just said I got the flu, you wouldn't know. Oh, it's the flu before the car accident. It could be referring to some other flu. So this before the car accident is helping to define or limit or restricts which flu. Just like in the previous one, the one from Idaho is restricting or limiting which cousin. So non-essential elements. A non-essential element is a word, phrase, or clause which is not essential to the meaning of the sentence because the word the non-essential element is modifying is already defined. The non-essential element only adds information. It can be removed without affecting the meaning of the sentence. So basically, the essential, you need it to understand. The non-essential, it's not needed. It's actually just adding information. And this is probably one of the keys. Because if you looked at some of the examples, you could go, well, I didn't get it. And this is a very good statement to say. Sometimes the distinction between an essential and non-essential element is difficult to determine or is insignificant. So sometimes you can't tell. And sometimes you can only tell by context. So actually, in one of the previous examples, we could, if I didn't, we could have limited the meaning in a prior sentence and would have changed, could change things from a non-restrict or non-essential to or from essential to non-essential. So continuing, and the fundamental rule with non-essential elements is they're always separated with punctuation. So when they're essential, no. When they're non-essential, yes. Mary, who is my cousin from Idaho, is visiting me through the weekend now. The reason who is my cousin from Idaho is non-essential is because we already know who Mary is. Now maybe if you didn't know who Mary was, and you just start off with that, then it would be essential because we don't know who Mary is. But Mary, you could probably assume that this is just adding information about Mary. It's not really defining Mary because we probably already know who Mary is. So therefore, this dependent clause, who is my cousin from Idaho, is actually a non-essential element. It's not adding information. There we go. The element only adds information. It doesn't really define Mary. I lost my job last Tuesday before the car accident. So is this before the car accident essential or not essential? Well, it's going to be non-essential. And remember, anytime we have non-essential, we separate with punctuation. That's what we did here. I should pointed that out. But we separate with punctuation, in this case a comma. Because before the car accident, it doesn't help define anything. Lost a job last Tuesday. If you would have maybe removed Tuesday, I lost my job before the car accident, maybe this would be essential. But here, I lost my job last Tuesday before the car accident. This portion right here is just adding information. It isn't really helping to define anything in the sentence or in this part of the sentence. Yeah, the element does not define last Tuesday. It only adds information. So continuing with non-essential. A test for essential non-essential is to remove the element from the sentence. So you could say Kathy. So in my English class is what we're testing here. Is this essential or non-essential? Kathy in my English class is from China. Remove the element. You say, oh, Kathy is from China. Yep. Conclusion, the element only adds information. Therefore, it's not essential. This description of who Kathy is not helping. One of the reasons why is that this is a proper noun, so we're referring to a specific person. So usually anything that's going to follow it is usually going to be non-essential. How about the students in my English class are from China? Here we're interested if in my English class again is essential or non-essential. So we remove the element and we get the students are from China. Well, here though, we actually change the meaning. The students are from China. Well, we're only talking about the students in my English class, not all students. So this in my English class is actually helping to define which students. And like I pointed out, this is a proper noun. This is just what they call a general noun. So usually when you have general nouns and something describing it, it's a key that you may have a restrictive element. And that's what we have here. So it's not all students. The students are from China. This could be all students. It's just the ones in the English class. So this is helping to restrict the meaning. Therefore, it is essential. Conclusion, the element is necessary because we're not talking about the students. We're talking about the students in the English class, not all students. Therefore, it's essential. Well, that's it for this video. Please subscribe. If you like the video, please hit like. And please buy the ebook. Thank you.